Welcome to 5 More Minutes, useful videos in about 5 minutes that support the teaching and learning of all students. I'm your host, Dr. Shelley Moore. Today's episode is called, Inclusion is Not Assimilation. Hello, my friends. So I know we've spent a lot of time constructing what it means to be inclusive, but I gotta tell you, my understanding just keeps evolving. And so I have to keep you posted. Remember the very first 5 More Minute video? We talked about what inclusion is. And then we made another video about how inclusion is evolving to be about responding to diversity. And then we made this video where we were talking about inclusion as being unified, and we visualized inclusion as these little trivial pursuit pies of love representing our multiple identities. Well, now I have to tell you what happened because I just keep learning. So I go and I'm visiting a school and this teacher is telling me this story. So I'm gonna set this up. I want you to visualize. There's this young student, grade 2, 7 years old. He's recently arrived as a refugee to Canada with his family. Side note, it's also important to know that this family has moved in December to a place in Canada that's very cold and very dark. This place is very different from his home country. So I want you to imagine this. It's December, it's cold, it's dark, and it's recess. This little guy is like, where the heck am I? And he made a face that kind of looked like this. His teacher saw that he looked a little bit overwhelmed, and so she walked over to him to check in on him and reassure him that this is indeed a magical place where Santa lives. But as she approached him, he took off. "We got a runner!" But when she looked to see where he ran, she noticed that he had run to another student who spoke his language because he was from the same place. They came together like magnets, being drawn together by a strength of identity that made it look like they were long-lost family members. What made this student feel a sense of belonging in this very foreign place was seeing himself in another person. It was such a powerful example of something that we all need. Communities of identity. It's also a really good example about the importance of not forcing students to suppress who they are or suppress their identities. Can you imagine if they weren't allowed to speak their home language, they wouldn't have been able to find each other? All of us have communities of identity and we need them. That's where we feel the most safe. That's where we feel like we have the sense of belonging that we need to be ourselves. These communities may be language communities, cultural communities, race communities, disability communities. Heck, I'm part of a queer community. So what if inclusion is finding the balance between belonging in communities of identity, where our identities, our strengths, and our interests are similar, but also finding belonging in communities of diversity, where our identities, our strengths, and our interests are different? The most important part here, though, is if we're advocating for communities of diversity, the goal is not to change what is different in another person or make them become like you. Many disabled students are exhausted. They have to mask all day and are often held to higher standards than students without disabilities. This is not appreciating identity. This is not responding to diversity. This is them not feeling safe. I mean, can we just stop with the forced eye contact already? And it's not just students with disabilities who are experiencing this. I swear, if there was one skill the whole world could learn right now, it's this. How do we learn from each other rather than trying to change or suppress each other? That is a community of diversity, where kids are learning from each other in both their identities and their diversities. Every single student in our classrooms and schools, every single teacher, every single support staff, every single administrator, every single person has something to offer to their community that others can learn from. So how can we help students declare who they are? How do we support them to learn from each other? How do we help them find ways to be a part of a community without suppressing their identity or making them feel like they need to become someone else to be successful? Now, one thing we also need to consider as we move forward is that acknowledging and valuing all identities is not just a goal for students. We also have to look around at the adults. I guarantee you right now that there's a person watching this video in your community who does not feel like they belong. And if the adults don't feel safe identifying in your community, neither will the students. So here's your challenge for today. I want you to look around your classroom, your school, your family. Who is being forced to mask? Who does not have the opportunity to shine? Who is not feeling connected or a sense of belonging? Look at the kids and the adults. I want you to reach out to them, learn more about them, learn more from them. Give them some space to be themselves. Help them feel that they can be exactly who they are. Because if they're going to feel a sense of belonging, that's exactly what needs to happen. Adults, students, families, every one of us. Okay, my friends, go forth and continue to blow up these archaic systems and barriers of the past. Look forward to our bright, inclusive future where we can all just be. See you next time.